Hi, this is Abel Stewart, and welcome to our bass guitar instructional series. So, if you know nothing other than this is a bass guitar, great. This is the place to start. So what I'm going to do is just share some basic vocabulary terms about the instrument, some basic concepts, and then talk about how to get it tuned up. So this will get you off to a good start. Alright, so basic vocabulary, you got your head, your neck, and your body. It's a lot like a person in that sense, kind of easy to remember that way. You have two main contact points where the strings meet the instrument. One is what's called the nut, and that's up here by the head. The other is what's called the bridge, and that's down here on the other end where it contacts with the body. In between your nut and your bridge, this whole length of the string is going to be vibrating. Based on where you place your fingers, you can either shorten or lengthen the vibrating section of the string, and that's what gives you different notes. So these metal bars here are called frets, and those are the things that can tell you kind of the specific notes. If you put your finger to get those will give you specific notes. What you want to do whenever you're pressing down on a fret, you're going to actually go as close as you can this way to the fret without actually crossing it. Let me show you what I mean by that. So if I'm in here, so let's say I want to play the 3rd fret on this string. What I want to do is get right here, so you notice I'm right behind that fret, right there. Now, if I'm too far back, you hear how it gets all buzzy on me? Don't want that. If I go too far forward, it gets buzzy and actually changes to a different note. So, as close as I can this way to that metal bar without actually crossing it. That's going to give you your cleanest note. Alright? So, let's talk about tuning this instrument. Right now I have it in tune, so what I'm going to do is detune it just a little bit. Alright, so this E string, on a 4-string bass, this is going to be the string closest to you. This is a 5-string bass. Nothing wrong with either. Both 4-string and 5-string basses are great. If you got a 4-string, no problem at all. The 5th string, it just gives you a little bit of extra options on some things, but some people prefer the feel of a 4-string. It's just personal preference. So, but this E string, on a 4-string, it'll be the string closest to you. On a 5-string, it'll be the second one, not the closest, but the one in. So this E string, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th fret, and yeah, so you hear how those don't match. What we want to do is make them match. Now, the easiest route, if you have an electronic tuner, is a lot of electronics tuners will have a series of lights, like they'll have red lights on either side and kind of a green light in the middle. And if you're sharp, which means your pitch is too high, it will go more this way. If you're flat, you'll go this way. If it's flat, you need to tighten it up until that little needle or light comes right in the middle. If you're sharp, what you need to do is tune it below and then come back into pitch. Why do we do that? If you just drop it into pitch, it will eventually slip further and you'll have to retune it again. If you bring it below and then back up into pitch, it'll hold its pitch a lot better. So yeah, always go underneath and tune up into pitch. A lot easier, or better that way. So here's our E. What we're going to do, again, E string, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th fret. Now, always double check which string you're tightening or loosening. You can tighten, if you tighten the wrong one, then you got to totally go back and do it over again. So I'm following my A string right up here. It's this one. So what I'm going to do is tighten it until all those little wah things iron out. Starting to sound like an airplane. You hear how it's getting closer. Still get a wah, so still got a little way to go. Alright, that's pretty smooth. Hear how that almost sounds like one note. Okay, so that's good. What I'm going to do is the exact same thing on the next string. So now my A string here, 5th fret. Alright, ready? So again, double check which string you're tightening or loosening. thing for the next one. And I hear that makes it worse, so I'm actually too high. What I'm going to do is drop it down below. There it is. Smooth right in the pitch. Beautiful. Alright, so for this B string, I didn't detune that, so. Now, if you're using an electronic tuner, a couple tips that will help make it work a little bit better. If you're using a guitar tuner, not something specifically for the bass, a lot of times the lower notes of the bass are going to have a hard time registering. So let me show you something you can do that will help with that. Look for the double dot on your instrument. That's going to be your 12th fret or your octave. And what you're going to do is right above that metal strip, you're not going to press it down, you're just going to touch your finger and rest it there. And you hear how that actually gives you a higher note. That's what's called a harmonic, or an octave in this case. That will be picked up a lot better by an electronic tuner than the open string. So, or like by a guitar tuner specifically. So if you want to do that, again, just rest your finger right there of your left hand and pluck that. And that'll give you a higher pitched note that a lot of guitar tuners will pick up more easily. Alright, so hopefully that'll help. So that's enough to kind of get you started, and next lesson we're going to talk about how do you start actually figuring out which notes are which, and some basic scales, and get started on notes that you can use to actually play songs.